Somewhere tonight, in a quiet room wrapped in shadows, there's a woman staring at the ceiling, heart aching with questions she can't put into words. The silence feels heavier than stone, and the darkness seems to echo back every doubt she's tried to silence. The bed she lies in is cold, not because the air is chilled, but because there's no one lying beside her. She's heard the whispers, haven't we all? Why is she still alone? What's wrong with her? Does she not deserve love like everyone else? These words, subtle as a breeze and sharp as daggers, follow her into the night. And the saddest part? She's given her best. She's the woman who has waited with a quiet hope. She's the one who has whispered desperate prayers in the still of the night, wiping away tears that no one saw. She's the one who smiled during the day, even when her heart was aching behind closed doors. She's held on to hope longer than most would dare. She's hoped love would come knocking, but it didn't. She's prayed for companionship, only to be met with silence. And sometimes she has fallen asleep, not from peace, but from emotional exhaustion. But if that woman is you, hear me clearly, you are not forgotten, not by heaven, not by God, and not by the story that's still being written about your life. You see, there is a lie that has been told so convincingly for so long that many have come to believe it without question. A lie that says a woman only becomes whole when a man chooses her, that her value only finds validation with a wedding ring, that her story begins when someone else gives her their last name. But what if I told you that's not the truth? What if I told you that a woman standing alone is not a woman abandoned, but a woman appointed? What if I told you that the absence of a husband doesn't mean the absence of purpose, that your story isn't waiting to begin? It's already unfolding. Your life isn't on pause. It's in progress, and it's holy. Some of the most powerful, impactful women in history and in Scripture walked this path alone. Yet not one of them walked without intention. Some were widows, some were single, some were left behind, some were rejected, and some were abandoned by those who should have stayed. But not one of them was overlooked by the God who holds the pen to every story. Not one of them was invisible to heaven, and neither are you. So tonight, if you are that woman, if you've ever felt unseen, unworthy, unloved, this message is for you. Because loneliness? It's not the end of your story. In fact, in God's hands, it can be the beginning of a sacred, powerful chapter. God is not done with you. He has not forgotten you. He has so much more waiting for you than what you've lost or what you've longed for. So stay with me, because by the end of this message, I believe you'll begin to see why your life, yes, exactly as it is, with or without a husband, is part of a divine plan that is so much bigger, so much more beautiful than you've imagined. Let's be honest. Silent nights. They're not always peaceful. Sometimes the quiet is deafening, and no one knows this more than a woman who sleeps, alone, night after night. When the world dims its noise and all distractions fade, there you are, with your thoughts. You shift in bed, eyes open in the darkness, staring at the space beside you that remains empty. That emptiness isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual. It holds memories of dreams you've had, fears you've fought, and prayers you're still waiting to see answered. You ask, does anyone see me? Really see me? Does anyone understand the weight of what I carry in my heart? Let me assure you, yes, yes, someone does. And as the silent nights stretch on, she begins to remember, not just what is, but what once was and what she once believed would be. She remembers. She remembers the nights she fell asleep with hope. In her heart, the morning she woke up believing that love was just around the corner. She remembers imagining what life would look like by now, thinking she'd be sharing a home with someone, raising a family, maybe holding a child in her arms or laughing with a husband across the dinner table. But instead, she finds herself alone, not because she chose solitude, not because her heart had no love to give, but because life, unpredictable, beautiful, and brutal, simply didn't unfold the way she once dreamed it would. She has celebrated friends who found love. She's stood in weddings, held newborns, and cheered as others stepped into the seasons she once prayed would be hers. And though she is genuinely happy for them, there are moments when a quiet ache whispers through her soul. And in that stillness, one question echoes again and again in the deepest part of her heart. Does my life still matter without a husband? Because loneliness is more than just being physically alone. It is deeper than the absence of people. It is the hollow ache of feeling invisible, of wondering if anyone truly sees her. A woman who walks alone in this world often carries a silent burden. It's not always a visible weight, but it's heavy nonetheless. She sits in rooms filled with voices and laughter, but when the conversations circle around engagements, wedding anniversaries, and the milestones of motherhood, she feels it, that invisible wall, that sense of being other. And even though she smiles and nods along, inside, a part of her feels like a stranger in a story she was supposed to be part of. Then she goes home. To a quiet house, to still rooms and unanswered questions. No one is there waiting to ask how her day was. No one to lean on when the weight of life presses in too hard. She makes decisions alone, faces challenges alone, navigates dreams and disappointments alone, and still she endures. Night after night, morning after morning, she rises. No one claps for her. No one posts her resilience as a highlight. The world may not notice her strength, but heaven does. Because there is something sacred, yes, sacred, about a woman who learns to stand alone. She may not have a hand to hold beside her, but she has walked through fires and come out stronger. She has known heartbreak, but still dares to love. She has tasted disappointment, but still clings to hope. She has stood on the edge of doubt, but refuses to let go of her faith. What kind of courage does that take? What kind of spirit keeps showing up, even when there's no one cheering her on? The kind God can use, because the woman who keeps going, the one who keeps believing, even when there are no signs, the one who keeps trusting, even when heaven seems silent. That woman, she is a vessel God can fill. She's not forgotten. She is not invisible. She is not less. But oh, how the world tries to convince her otherwise. The world tells her she is missing something, that she's incomplete, that somewhere along the way she must have failed. But those voices, those lies, don't come from truth. They come from a culture that doesn't understand the quiet power of a woman who walks with God. Because yes, she may sleep alone. She may wake up with no one beside her. But she is never truly alone. In the deepest part of her loneliness, in the stillness where even her thoughts feel loud, there is one who sees her. There is one who counts every tear she sheds in silence, who hears every longing she's never spoken aloud, who knows the weight of her prayers, even the ones she stopped praying because they hurt too much. And this God, he doesn't look at her and see lack. He doesn't see someone who is missing a piece. No, he sees someone who is being shaped for something more. He sees a woman becoming braver, becoming wiser, becoming a testimony. She may not see it yet. She may not feel it, but every quiet night, every question, every silent ache, it's doing something within her. It's preparing her, refining her, turning her into a version of herself stronger and more radiant than she ever dreamed. Still, the world keeps watching her. Society tilts its head with confusion. Relatives gently ask, "So, when will you settle down?" Friends, with no ill intent, remind her of what she doesn't have. And all around her the media shouts the same message on repeat, that love, romance, and a partner are the highest validations of a woman's worth. That marriage is the trophy, that companionship is the prize. But God is writing a different story. And you, dear woman walking alone, you are still right in the middle of it. As the world continues to whisper its judgments, she wrestles not only with loneliness, but with doubt. She doesn't always speak it out loud. She may smile in public, keep herself busy, attend gatherings, and serve others with quiet strength. But deep down, where her heart speaks truths no one hears, she wonders, is something wrong with me? Did she miss her chance? Did she walk past the right person without realizing it? Were her choices flawed? Is she somehow less because there's no one to call her mine? These thoughts creep in during the quietest moments, those long pauses between texts, the slow weekends, the holidays filled with photos of other people's joy. And the world, it doesn't help. In fact, it adds weight to the burden. The judgment is rarely loud. It's subtle. It arrives in hushed whispers, awkward silences, side glances at family events, in conversations that speak volumes without saying a word. Questions like, still single? Statements like, your time will come. Smiles that hold sympathy instead of celebration. And while the world makes assumptions, God sees the truth. While society idolizes relationship status, titles, and surface-level achievements, God peers deeper, into the soul, the heart, the very core of who a woman is. He doesn't measure her by whether she wears a ring. He doesn't define her by whether she's taken someone else's last name. He doesn't look at her and see what the world sees. He sees purpose. He sees calling. He sees a heart that is still open, still willing, still faithful, even in the waiting. She is not forgotten. She is not forsaken. She is chosen, set apart, not because she's lacking something, but because God has something extraordinary in store, something that can't be boxed into the world's small definitions of success. Because, here's the truth the world has forgotten. A woman is not whole because of who stands beside her. She is whole because of the God who formed her. The world's mistake is believing that a woman's worth is somehow unlocked only by romantic love. But history, and more importantly, Scripture, tells a radically different story. Think about Esther. Before she ever wore a crown or held royal influence, she was just a young woman taken from her home and placed into a palace. Her strength didn't come from the throne. It came from her courage to risk everything for her people. It came from saying yes to a moment when she could have stayed silent. For such a time as this, they said, and she believed it. Think about Ruth, widowed in a foreign land, alone, grieving. But instead of giving in to despair, she clung to loyalty. She followed her mother-in-law into the unknown, trusting a God she barely knew. And that trust led her straight into a story of redemption she never saw coming. And Mary Magdalene, she wasn't known for her marriage. She wasn't praised for a family. She was remembered for something much deeper, her unwavering devotion to Jesus. She stayed when others ran. She wept outside the tomb. And she was among the very first to witness the risen Christ. None of these women fit the mold the world celebrates, yet heaven celebrated them. They were not defined by titles, relationships, or social approval. They were defined by their faith, by their obedience, by their willingness to trust God, even when the path was unclear. And so is she, the woman who sleeps alone. Yes, she may carry the sting of judgment. She may feel the sting of assumptions and pity. But she is not walking under that weight alone. The one who created her sees every unspoken prayer. He knows the nights when sleep won't come. He hears the sighs, the whispers of longing, the moments she wonders if anyone sees her at all. And he does. He sees her courage to wake up every day and face life with grace. He sees her strength in making choices, setting boundaries, and chasing purpose without applause. She is not less because she walks alone. She is not incomplete because she hasn't found the one. She is already enough, not in the eyes of the world, but in the eyes of the one who made her. And when she finally embraces that truth, truly lets it sink deep into her soul, the voices of judgment begin to fade, the questions lose their power. The shame begins to fall away like dust, because suddenly she's no longer looking at her reflection and seeing what's missing. She sees what's already there, a heart that still believes, a soul that's growing stronger, a purpose that hasn't been delayed, only prepared. But the world still underestimates her. They see her quiet home, her empty bed, her unshared name, and they mistake solitude for weakness, as if the absence of a husband means the absence of impact, as if a ring is what gives her strength. But that's not what history tells us. That's not what faith reveals, because some of the most courageous, powerful, and world-shaping women never shared their journey with a man. They were leaders, prophets, healers, mothers, visionaries, and their strength came not from whose arms they were held in, but from the one who held their heart. Building on the truth that her worth isn't measured by another's presence, we now see how solitude forges a strength few ever know. Strength isn't about who walks beside you. It's about who stands within you. And a woman who sleeps alone, who faces life's trials without a partner at her side, discovers a power that many will never experience. She has carried the weight of the world on shoulders meant to share burdens, yet every morning she rises, undaunted and unbowed. She's made decisions in the silence of her own mind, without a reassuring voice to guide her. She's borne responsibilities that seem too heavy for one person, and still she does not crumble. Night after night, she has walked into rooms filled with laughter and companionship, couples holding hands, families celebrating milestones, friends confiding in one another. The world might see her there and assume loneliness, but she knows the difference between empty space and inner void. She has learned to wage her fiercest battles on bent knees, praying for courage when her heart trembles. She stares down uncertainty with unshakable faith. She silences the doubts that whisper, "You are not enough," because she is more than enough, more than capable, more than a waiting soul in need of rescue. Yes, there are nights when the silence feels like an echo chamber of fears. In the stillness, she asks herself, "Was I meant to walk this path alone forever?" But struggle doesn't measure weakness. It defines resilience. Every challenge she's faced in solitude has become a stepping stone, forging her into someone unbreakable. Each tear she's wiped away by her own hand has prepared her to taste a joy that few will ever know. Every time she questioned her strength, she proved herself wrong by getting up again. She doesn't thirst for validation because she knows her worth is intrinsic, etched into her soul by the one who made her. She doesn't seek society's approval. She rests in a security no world can shake. She is not a woman waiting to be completed. She is already whole and already conquering. And when the world finally catches sight of who she truly is, it won't see someone alone. It will see someone unstoppable. Yet one of her deepest fears remains. Will my life pass by unnoticed? Will anyone ever celebrate me? Watching friends build families, listening to conversations about anniversaries and baby showers, she cheers them on with genuine joy. But in the quiet, her heart longs to be known, to be cherished, to be seen for all she is. Is that too much to ask? There is something profoundly human about the need to matter. But she's learning a powerful truth. The celebration she craves begins within. The applause she deserves comes from the one whose view of her is perfect and eternal. So she stands in her quiet home, shoulders squared, head held high, for she has discovered that power does not come from a ring or a shared surname, but from a steadfast spirit. Every solitary night has been a forging fire, every unanswered question a refining tool. And though the world may underestimate her, God is revealing her strength one quiet victory at a time. She isn't marching toward a moment when she'll finally feel worthy. She has already arrived. Her life matters, right here, right now, because she is infinitely treasured by the one who sees every tear, hears every prayer, and delights in her very being. After all the questions, after all the waiting, one truth still holds steady. She is not forgotten. And as she continues this path, she begins to see that her story is not a mistake. It's a masterpiece in progress. She longs for connection, not because she's needy, but because she was created with a heart that craves relationship. It's woven into her very design, the desire to love and be loved in return. But when that connection doesn't arrive in the way she hoped, when the years pass and her prayers remain unanswered, it's easy to start believing a quiet, crushing lie. Maybe I just don't matter as much. Maybe my life is less important than theirs. That lie can settle deep, like a shadow over her joy. But it is not the truth. The truth is that no woman, married or single, surrounded or standing alone, is ever unseen by the one who created her. The world might overlook her, but heaven never does. There is not a single second, not a single tear that slides down her cheek in the dark, not a single whispered prayer spoken through clenched lips that escapes his attention. The fear of being forgotten? That's not from God. That's a tactic of the enemy, a subtle strategy to convince her that her value depends on being noticed, praised, chosen. But her worth was set in stone before she even took her first breath. It was sealed by the one who called her fearfully and wonderfully made. Long before any human could ever acknowledge her, she was already cherished. And this is what she must remember. Being alone is not the same as being forgotten. Some of the most extraordinary women this world has ever known walked solitary paths. They weren't surrounded by fanfare or applause, but their quiet courage changed the course of history. The world may fail to see the weight a woman carries when she bears her burdens in silence, but God sees. He sees every evening she spends, reflecting alone. Every moment she chooses trust over fear. Every time she wakes up with an ache in her soul, but still chooses to move forward. These are not signs of abandonment. These are the hallmarks of a woman who is not forsaken, but favored. Favor doesn't always come with applause or comfort. Sometimes it comes wrapped in waiting. Sometimes it's disguised as delay. But it's in that waiting that she's being refined, prepared, shaped, not just for something good, but for something greater than she can imagine. She may fear that her story will never be told, that her name won't be spoken with admiration or love. But here's the truth. Her story is already being written by the author whose pen never slips. And when he writes, he doesn't draft stories of rejection or insignificance. He writes legacies. He writes destinies. He writes redemption. She is not forgotten. She is being prepared. She is not invisible. She is being molded into something strong, beautiful, and full of divine purpose. And one day, when she looks back on the years she thought she walked alone, she'll realize those were the moments she was being held most closely. There is a longing inside every heart, a longing that no human love can fully satisfy. And for the woman who sleeps alone, this ache can feel even deeper. She may think it's the absence of a husband that leaves her feeling empty. She sees couples strolling hand in hand, families gathered around dinner tables, anniversary celebrations lighting up her news feed, and she wonders, is something missing from my life? The world answers with a resounding yes. It tells her she needs a romantic partner to be whole, that until she finds the one, she's incomplete. It paints love as the final stamp of approval on a woman's value. So she prays, she waits, and on some nights she weeps quietly in her bed, wondering why love hasn't found her yet, wondering why the promise still feels far off. But what if the love she's searching for isn't just about finding a person? But what if the love she truly longs for is not the kind the world talks about? What if the ache inside her isn't pointing to what's missing, but to who is missing? What if the loneliness she feels isn't a punishment or a delay, but a divine invitation, an invitation to discover the one love that was never meant to leave, a love that does not disappoint, a love that doesn't fade when life gets hard, a love that doesn't require perfection or performance, a love that satisfies the soul? Because the truth is, no relationship on this earth, no matter how passionate, deep, or committed, can satisfy the eternal craving inside her. That hollow space in her heart wasn't created to be filled by human affection. It was carved out for something far greater, something everlasting, something divine. No man, no marriage, no perfect Instagram-worthy love story can fill the place. That was designed for God alone. Yes, human love is beautiful. Yes, romantic connection is a gift. But when a woman believes that love will complete her, that once she finds the one, her insecurities will vanish, her fears will fade, her heart will finally be whole, she's placing a weight on another person that only God Himself can carry. How many have stood at the altar believing they had reached the finish line, only to realize later that the ache still lingered? How many have held someone close at night yet still felt an emptiness inside? Because human love, as precious as it is, will always be imperfect. It's flawed. It's fragile. It comes with human limitations. But God's love is different. It's constant, never shifting with moods or seasons. It's strong. A love that bears every burden and still never breaks. It's faithful, never abandoning, never giving up. It's deeply personal, a love that sees every crack in your heart and still chooses you completely. And when a woman embraces that love, when she allows it to reach the tender, hidden places of her soul, everything begins to shift. The loneliness that once defined her begins to fade. She no longer sees herself as waiting for someone to complete her, because she knows she is already whole. She doesn't see her life as lacking, because in Christ she has everything she needs. The nights that once felt cold and empty become sacred moments of peace, where she rests in the presence of the one who never leaves. The silence that once echoed like absence now becomes a sanctuary of stillness, a place where her heart can hear God's whisper more clearly than ever. This doesn't mean she stops hoping for love. It doesn't mean she must let go of the dream of marriage or companionship. Love is a beautiful gift. A relationship rooted in faith, purpose, and mutual devotion can be one of life's greatest blessings. But she now understands this truth. She is not waiting to be loved, because she is already deeply, completely, and eternally loved. Loved in a way no human could ever replicate. Loved by the one who formed her, pursued her, redeemed her, and calls her his own. Her value is not measured by the presence of a ring. Her identity is not tied to a man's last name. Her purpose is not wrapped up in whether or not she becomes someone's wife. She is already cherished, already chosen, already claimed. She is seen by the God who knit her together. She is held by a love that will never let go. And when that truth takes root in her spirit, the void that once haunted her heart begins to fill. Not with people, not with romance, but with the only love that truly satisfies, because a woman is not defined by her relationship status. She is defined by the purpose God placed inside her. Yes, the world may shout a different message. It may point to the title she doesn't have: wife, mother, partner, and whisper that she's somehow behind. But heaven says otherwise. Heaven says she is called, she is equipped, she is enough. She does not need a marriage license to make her life meaningful. She does not need a man's affirmation to validate her existence. She was called with purpose long before she ever dreamed of love. She is not incomplete because she sleeps alone, because her wholeness was never contingent on who stands beside her, only on who lives within her. There is a lie, an ancient, deep-seated lie, that has whispered through generations of women that her highest calling is to be chosen by a man, that her ultimate fulfillment is to become a wife, that her greatest worth is found in whether someone says, "I do." But that lie ends here. And here is the lie that so many women have silently swallowed, that until they are chosen by a man, they are somehow unfinished, that their potential is still dormant, that their destiny is still pending. But what if that's not just a lie? What if it's a robbery? What if countless women have been delaying their purpose, stalling their dreams, and silencing their voices, all because someone told them their time starts after a wedding day? But let's pause for a moment and remember, what about the women who stood alone and still changed the world? What about Deborah, the prophetess and judge who led an entire nation with wisdom and bravery? Not because she was someone's wife, but because she was God's appointed leader. What about Mary, the young woman from Nazareth chosen to carry the Savior of the world? Not because of her marital status, but because of her faithful heart. What about the countless unnamed women through history, the warriors, the preachers, the nurses, the mothers, the visionaries, who walked boldly in their purpose, without a husband's name attached to their identity? The world may forget their names, but heaven never does. So hear this, woman of God. A woman who sleeps alone is not disqualified. She is still called, still chosen, still valuable, still anointed. Her dreams are not on pause. Her calling is not postponed. Her gifts are not waiting to be validated by a wedding band. She is not in a waiting season. She is in a working season. There is something within her that this world desperately needs. A message she's meant to speak. A light she's meant to carry. A change she was born to ignite. If she spends her life believing that her ministry, her influence, or her joy must wait for the arrival of a husband, she may miss the beautiful and holy work God is already unfolding in her life. Right. Now, marriage is a gift, yes, but it is not the measure of success. Companionship is beautiful, yes, but it is not the foundation of purpose, because if a woman waits to feel complete until someone holds her hand, she may never understand that the only hand she truly needs to hold first is the hand of God. Wholeness is not found in another person. It is found in the one who made her. A man can stand with her in her calling, but he cannot create the calling within her. A marriage can be a partnership of purpose, but it cannot be the source of her purpose. And so, to the woman who sleeps alone, you are not forgotten, you are not forsaken, and you are absolutely not without a divine calling. Your life is unfolding even now according to a sacred plan. You have work to do, hearts to touch, truth to speak, kingdom ground to take. You are not waiting for permission to begin. You were created for movement, for impact, for a mission that cannot be delayed until someone else shows up. You were made
for more than waiting. You were made for such a time as this. And hear this truth deep in your soul. A woman who sleeps alone is not a woman who has been overlooked. She is a woman in preparation. She is being refined, strengthened, molded by the hands of her Creator. The world may try to define her by the absence of a husband, but God defines her by the presence of His power in her life. She is not in a season of lack,
She is in a season of becoming. She is not waiting to be chosen. She has already been chosen by the one whose love is eternal, unfailing and unstoppable. And her strength? It is not measured by how many people walk beside her. It is measured by the courage it took to keep walking alone. It is found in the nights when she cried herself to sleep, but still rose the next morning with a purpose in her heart. It is found in the prayers she whispered through trembling lips, and the answers she believed in before they came. It is found in her steady faith, even when the world tells her she should be discouraged, even when friends say, "You're still single?" With pity in their eyes, she has walked through silence and discovered sacred strength. She has sat in loneliness and been wrapped in divine love. She has looked at empty chairs and still found joy in God's presence. She has fought battles that no one saw, and she has emerged not bitter, but bold. She has learned that God's presence can fill a room more completely than any human ever could. She has found that her worth is not tied to a man. It is rooted in her Maker. She has carried the weight of waiting, but she has not given up. She has been misunderstood, judged, questioned, but she stands unwavering, knowing that her worth is not in the fleeting validation of others, but in the unshakable, eternal love of God. If she desires love, she can wait in faith. She can wait for God's timing, trusting His perfect plan. But she must never believe the lie that she is less without it. Marriage is a beautiful gift. Yes, but it is not the only calling. It is not the highest purpose. It is a blessing, but it is not the foundation of her worth. A woman's value is not in her relationship status, not in the title of wife or partner, but in the purpose God has placed on her life. She is not waiting to be fulfilled. She is not half of a whole, never incomplete, but already whole, already loved, already called. Let the world say what it will. Let the whispers come. Let the judgment fall like rain upon her shoulders. Let the critics raise their voices, but let her stand firm in the truth. She is not a woman waiting for a man to define her. She is not a woman waiting for her purpose to unfold when someone else enters her life. She is a woman who walks with purpose, who stands with dignity, who walks with strength. And that is enough. Whether she walks alone for a season or whether she walks alone for a lifetime, she walks in the power of her identity in Christ. She walks as a woman of faith, a woman of courage, a woman who knows her worth, a woman who knows she is not defined by the absence of a partner, but by the presence of the one who has called her, chosen her, and set her apart. Her worth is not found in her relationship status, but in the truth that she is already whole, already enough. And when she embraces this truth, when she knows without a doubt that she is loved, she will walk through this life with unshakable purpose. Her heart will no longer yearn for the validation of the world, because she will know that she is already enough, and her life will be a testament to the power of a woman who has found her strength, not in the arms of another, but in the arms of God.